Wait, what? All right. Okay, tribe, everybody, this came out of absolutely nowhere. Now, I'm really excited about the fact that Zalbar, of all characters, has got an Omicron. We're going to dive into just a little bit about what that Omicron does and whether or not you should apply it in a second, but this really does give me a lot of hope and excitement for the future. I don't know where CG got this idea that we needed Zalbar to have an Omicron, but I'm here for it. I'm absolutely 100% here for it. They haven't given Omicrons to a legacy character in a long ass time. I don't know if it was like Probe Droid or something like that. That was the last sort of legacy character that got gifted an Omicron. It's been ages. We used to get them at the start of Omicrons come into the game. We used to get like 6 every 3 months or something like that, and it was a really exciting time. We just had this update come out of nowhere. By the way, we've got an Omicron on our boy Zalbar. Absolutely huge, and it is actually quite interesting. It's on his unique Missions Guardian, and it's actually broken up into 2 different game modes. It's still GAC, but one's for 5v5 and the other is for 3v3, and he's got a little bit at the start that applies to both. So let's read through this right now. Whilst in Grand Arenas, Zalbar is going to gain Retribution and Taunt for 1 turn at the start of battle. This is great. He's going to pre-taunt and he's going to counterattack at the start of battle. At the start of his turn, and whenever he loses Retribution or Taunt, whenever he attacks out of turn, inflict a stack of damage over time for 2 turns on all enemies. So basically, anything that he does, damage over time on the entire enemy team, right? Straight away. If he gains Taunt, if he loses a Taunt, if he attacks out of turn, every time he takes a turn, everybody's getting a dot, which is kind of like, oh, okay, that's interesting. It's a little bit annoying, right? But it doesn't just end there. It kind of builds on that theme, right? Not only that, enemies cannot get defense up, nor can they get stealth, which is quite interesting. It's an interesting sort of setup here. Can't get stealth. That's quite useful for certain teams. Stops them from being able to hide primary characters and stuff like that. Stops them being able to become more tanky. This is where the Omicron starts to deviate a little bit and throws a little bit of spice in the mix. So in 5v5 Grand Arenas, you need to have a full team of light side Old Republic characters, okay? And the leader cannot be a Jedi. That means no Jedi Knight Revan and no Bastila Shan. That's only in the leadership slot. You can still have them in the back burner. They can still be supporting other people, but realistically speaking, they're probably not going to feature in this team. Now, moving on. In 5v5, if you've got a full light side Old Republic team with no Jedi leader, which basically means Karth or Sorti, which realistically means Karth is your leadership here, allies are going to be immune to daze and expose. At the start of each turn, this is where it gets spicy, allies gain 20% defense and tenacity for each enemy debuff until the end of their turn. So all those dots that Zalbar is putting out to the enemy team, which is obviously going to be amplified more in 5v5, means realistically loads of defense and loads of tenacity. We're talking hundreds of percentiles of tenacity and defense. Every single thing that he does, 1 dot per enemy team, so enemy player. So like if it's a full 5v5, every time 1 dot is on one of those guys, that's 100% defense and 100% tenacity. That is going to mitigate a lot of damage, and you will not land debuffs on this team unless you do apply tenacity down. Even then, if there are enough debuffs, you can almost offset tenacity down. It's kind of crazy. Get this though, whenever another ally does taunt, they're going to immediately dispel it, take a bonus turn and gain 400% offense, stacking until the end of the encounter. Now, the only person that is a light side Old Republic that can gain taunt in this game is Juhani, and it's on a 4-turn cooldown. This kind of counteracts that a little bit. She can taunt, she gains a bonus turn, lowers that cooldown down to 3, and then she's gaining 400% stacking offense for the rest of battle. So every single time you do it, her damage is getting higher and higher and higher, and it's going to be pretty hard to kill her because she's going to have so much defense. Not just that though, if you take a look at some of Juhani's actual abilities, her basic, deal physical damage to the target enemy, it does 10% more damage for each debuffed enemy. So if there are 5 dots on the field, 1 on each enemy, this is going to do 50% more damage. And then she also has her AoE, which deals physical damage to all enemies, and for each critical hit, she's going to recover 10% health and protection, which is just going to make her so tanky when you throw in all of that additional defense. It's actually quite a cool little interaction we've got. Now, the only problem with this part of Zalbar's kit is that if there is an enemy Galactic Legend on the team, as soon as that GL takes its turn, Juhani is going to lose all that offense. So this is my only bit of a downer with this, is this Omicron is really hampered by the ability to go against Galactic Legends being nerfed. You're not really going to take this against GLs and have it really do great damage, because it turns off the stacking offense, and in the 3v3 section, it simply just does not work with a GL. It's a bit of a shame, and I'm not sure on the decision choice here, particularly when we think about things like every single new marquee these days, and each new marquee team that CG releases seems to be able to beat a Galactic Legend team in one way or another. So it's an interesting choice that they decide now is the time to not have a Galactic Legend counter. So basically, any team that's got a high level of turn meter generation is going to be dotting itself up into the stratosphere, which means a lot of damage when they take turns, but it also means that the amount of defense and tenacity that you're going to be getting at the start of your turns is going to be unreal. Not only that, the last little bit of icing on the cake here is that if you've got this Omicron in 5v5 and you've got that full light side Old Republic team, then Jolee can revive all Old Republic allies. It's not just the Jedi. He can now revive Mission. He can revive Zalbar. He can revive even Karth Onasi. Now, it does mean that you cannot use Canderous Ordo in this team because he is not light side. But that's not really the worst thing in the world, because Canderous really does like to go with characters like Maul for more Mando's teams. So I'm not too mad about that little interaction. This is where it gets a little bit weird now. We're going into the 3v3 zone, and it just flips the script entirely. In 3v3, Mission and Zalbar get the Sith Empire tag. This is kind of cool. This is playing off the fact that in the original Knights of the Old Republic, you could actually choose to be the light side or dark side with your story choices. And at one point in that game, you can try to convince Zalbar to actually go an off mission, which is very, very interesting. They've kind of baked that into this. The idea is that Darth Revan is the leader for this 3v3 team. So Darth Revan, Mission, and Zalbar. And in that instance with this Omicron, essentially at the very start of battle, Mission takes a bonus turn and dies. But then she enacts a 5s-like sacrifice. Her crit chance, her crit damage, her offense, and her speed get added to both Zalbar and Darth Revan. Think about that for a minute. Do you really want to be facing off against like a 500 speed Darth Revan who's got like a 180 additional crit damage and an additional 5,000-6,000 offense on top of all that, ferocity that he's going to be stacking for additional speed and additional damage? It's going to be a little bit nutty. Not only that, but Darth Revan and Zalbar both get guard until Zalbar is defeated. That's just mental. And to remind you what guard actually does, it was originally done on Chewbacca, which is kind of cool. We're keeping with a Wookiee theme and guard here, but essentially, characters who are guarded can't be critically hit. They are immune to both daze and stun, and they gain 25% additional crit chance. Now, the crit chance isn't really important in that Darth Revan team. If you've got Darth Revan leadership, you are critting thanks to ferocity. But the fact that you can't be critically hit is actually really clutch, because ferocity lowers your crit avoidance. It makes it almost guaranteed that you're going to be crit. So this is actually huge on a Darth Revan team. No crits, no dazes, no stuns. Obviously, Darth Revan kind of deals with the stuns already, and the fact that you just cannot be crit. Absolutely huge. Not only that, but Darth Revan is also going to assist whenever Zalbar uses an ability. Now, that wording is very important. Uses an ability means any ability. It even should apply to retributions, because that's still using a basic ability even if you don't click the button. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that means Darth Revan will assist on a basic. Now, all those additional stats going to Darth Revan, him having like 500 plus speed, him having boatloads of offense, loads of crit chance, loads of crit damage, and Zalbar not being able to be crit, not being able to be stunned or dazed is pretty phenomenal. The only downside to this 3v3 thing is if there's an enemy Galactic Legend, it just doesn't work. It's turned off completely. So it's almost pointless. It's a bit sad. I'm not entirely sure, but I want to know your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think about this Omicron? I'm personally, as exciting as it is, I'm going to hold off on this one and not apply it, just because my Zalbar is only Relic 3, my mission's only Relic 3. If I were to invest into this, I would need to make significant levels of investment into my Old Republic just to get them up to scratch. And I don't realistically know where I'm going to use this team to counter anything in the game. If I can't use it against Galactic Legends, where am I using it against? Am I using it against Starkiller teams or Imperial Troopers that we don't really see? CLS teams, which we don't really see? Gungans, maybe, potentially. Maybe it can beat things like Great Mothers. Maybe it can beat things like Starkiller. We just don't know at this point. That's the thing. And for me, I personally just don't want to put the additional investment in relic levels on characters like Carthonasi and Mission and Zalbar in order to make them that little bit more viable on top of the Omicron. There are plenty of Omicrons still in the game that I need to get, so I'm probably going to hold off on this one just for now. But if anybody does apply it, please do send me some footage because I'd love to see what it can beat and what it can have fun with. Maybe on defense you can have a lot of fun with it, who knows. The only problem with the Darth Revan one in 3v3, of course, is that as soon as you've done your first battle, even if you succeed and win that battle on a defensive basis, mission will be defeated. That means you are not going to have the opportunity to have that Omicron active for a second battle, so it's a guaranteed loss, essentially, in the second battle. Still, the one last thing that I do want to say about this Omicron that makes me excited is it maybe does say that we are going to be getting legacy characters with new Omicrons once again. I'm hoping the CG is coming back to this. Maybe we get one every 3 months or something like that. They pick a character, one of the older, less used characters, and think, you know what, you deserve a little bit of a makeover. Let's throw an Omicron on you and see what we can do to make you a little bit more viable. I'm looking at characters like Hoth Rebel Soldier that's completely useless and has nothing to do with the fact that I just so happen to have a Relic 9 Hoth Rebel Soldier CG. Please help me out here. Thanks, guys. Alright, let me know your thoughts about this new Zalbar Omicron and what you would like to see have an Omicron in the future, and I'll see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.